in UBC studios. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning once again. Welcome to Good Morning Uganda. It is the 12th of October 2021. We're so delighted to have you here with us on UBC TV. Into our 7 o'clock hour, we get to have our newsreel that is going to be discussed by Kirabo and Felix Nkunda. My name is Priscilla Nalwoga. But before we get into that, let us remind you of a poll question for you that has just joined us right now so that you too can be a part of the discussions.
Our poll question is, how can the government enhance protection and mentorship of the girl child amidst COVID-19? How can the government enhance protection and mentorship of the girl child amidst COVID-19? And be able to hit us social media, that is on Twitter, hashtag UBCGMU, WhatsApp number 0709 60 25 92. And of course, also for some of you who are catching us live on YouTube, be able to leave a message in regards to our poll question.
Thank you so much, Felix Nkunda. And now on to our poll question that we give you there. We expect you to give us your responses, and later on we shall be engaging them. But now we turn our attention to our newsreel, where we want to look at a scheme that has now been existing for 7 years and counting under the Ministry of Education and Sports. We want to find out the objectives, when it was designed, and where they are right now, the challenges and the beneficiaries. Are they getting to where they need to get? Are they benefiting from this particular scheme, or is there still a challenge on either side of the beneficiaries, but also those that are giving this particular scheme a benefit of doubt, for that matter? Just to look through the report here, the Higher Education Students Financing Board has opened applications for the 8th cohort of the study loans to admitted students for the academic year 2021-2022 under the Students Loan Scheme. So applicants must be admitted first to a university, then they can be able to apply for a student loan. This allows access to higher education for students who may not be able to afford it, given the social classification of our country. So the government of Uganda has allocated 6 billion Ugandan shillings towards this particular cause, and we are hoping that 1,500 students can actually be beneficiaries for the 2021-2022 cohort. Away from that, since 2014, 11,187 beneficiaries have gotten loans to study, and we've had 76 undergraduate diploma courses and 130 degree programs, which we later on we shall evaluate these particular courses and programs given the spectrum and the new normal, which allows for both sciences and arts to thrive at the same time. However, there's been challenges, especially recovering of these loans from the students. But we want to start by looking at the objectives as to why this scheme was designed and implemented thereof. Kirabo, starting with the objectives of the Students Loan Scheme.
Well, like rightly said, Priscilla, the objective was basically to ensure that students or children in this country who could not afford, that is higher education, tuition or fees, can get an opportunity where they can find these monies to pay for their education, then after completion pay back, because this is a loan scheme whereby you apply and then there is vetting. If you are a successful candidate, they are able to pay for you, government, this loan, you get the loan, then after you begin working. So you notice that in Uganda, when you look at our education, apart from some isolated cases, that nursery, government does not intervene there, and usually nursery is on average, it's a bit cheaper. When you go to primary, the cost is a bit high. Go to secondary, but one of the most expensive areas in our education has been tertiary and universities. That is why you've seen that many families, they will tell you, I dropped out at senior 4, I dropped out at senior 6, I couldn't have money to continue. So government in its wisdom understood that yes, a few that go on government sponsorship because they have gotten those marks, because we know that government, we have government sponsorship in the area of education, but it's very competitive and goes with grades. The rest go for private. But then they were wondering, what about those that could not have the grades and also given the competition of this government scholarship? Then what happens? So government said, no, if you can put money here, these students can apply with just you pay, that is 53,000 non-refundable. That is to send in your application with, of course, the required documents. Then if you're a successful candidate, you can get this scheme. And like you've said, it's been around for the last 7 years. And if you have over 11,000 that have benefited from this scheme, then I think by and large, because also the resource envelope determines the numbers, this financial year they have allocated 6 billion. But if you look at 6 billion, that is about 1,500 students may benefit from that. So if it wasn't the resource envelope, to me, I believe it is serving the cause despite a few challenges like course selection. It may not be that very inclusive because they will target specific courses that government believes this is the direction. That's why you'll find engineers, science teachers, and the medical students benefit more. Arts, it's not a preview right now.
Okay, all right. Looking at the debt statistics regarding students' loan, I think this idea originates from the United States. And when you look at the United States, statistically, you get to see that 1.7 trillion US dollars is what is in student loans, and that grows 6 times faster than the nation's economy. Translate that into Uganda and see the effect of students' loans. Yes, you want to help students attain higher education for an all-round economy, but then again, it is breaking the back of the people or the Ministry of Education in being able to help them achieve that. Felix?
Well, in as much as it may look at the face of it prima facie as a burden, and definitely it is, because I mean it's a loan. The money should have gone into something, development or what, probably is being channeled to cause effect in other day. But the challenges of this for me are much even wider than just that. Robert here was trying to tell us of how the scheme happens and all that, and he brought it out. But there are some of the lacunas that need to be addressed, and over time you've had. If I'm not mistaken, I think about 2 or 3 weeks ago, remember, there was an issue of arresting people at work because of failure to pay some of these loans. Now, that alone is symbolic. First, when you get money and decide to invest it in a person, and that person you do not have control over, that, remember, you see, it's not like we give Kirabo a loan rather, and he goes to start a shop and he has given that school. There's no collateral to this kind of money. The only collateral is that you will get a job, the expectation. Now, there are 3 things I think that should be very well thought as we try to enhance this loan scheme. 1, our education system. I'm made to understand that this happens mostly for tertiary, as Robert has put it. Now, how many, and I love the fact that government is dictating which courses and which not to do. But at the end of the day, what informs that kind of dictating? Is it informed by the great gap in society? Do you get the point? Like are we scarce of, let's say, doctors, engineers, you know, people, laboratory attendants, you know, teachers in terms of, are we scarce in that area? Are we trying to fill a gap? Are we trying to motivate people towards a particular direction? That's a question to ask. Secondly, how have we crafted the art of these courses to make them relevant, that even these people can be able to start servicing these loans in the immediate aftermath of their education? Because when you say you want to collect, you're borrowing Priscilla money to study, there must be another guarantee that she'll be able to pay this money, and that means she'll be able to be employed. So as we talk about this whole loan, let's talk about the employment rate of university graduates, what is it? How is it standing lately? Out of 100, how many of them?
More so especially under COVID-19, where education has taken a twist. Now it is basically IT online, which changes the face of application and administration.
Not only education, even work.
Yeah.
Away from the kind of work that, in fact, I was going to say the kind of work that we have to sit here, but we don't even have to sit here if we have to do a program. Yeah. You can be in the comfort of your sitting room.
has not appeared in live studio for a very long time.
You can get the point.
Yeah.
Kirabo can be in the comfort of his sitting room, in his backyard. I can be anywhere.
Well, and that's where that happens.
That's the thing. Now, how do we tailor education to changing times? And I can tell you, as a matter of fact, the world will never go back where it was. That's a known. Yeah, now, we are putting money in something we're not certain, and that's why if you're going to see that scheme, and I can predict 3-4 years from now they are going to close it. Because of what? They can't collect the money they are putting in, because it can't work in isolation of the entire education system and the employment sector. Look at the kind of employers you have vis-a-vis the kind of employment force you have. The kind of
employers, the number of employers that we also do
but
have
also
for these
the
particular
kind
subjects.
of employees,
yeah.
What kind of workers.
Yeah.
You get the point? But also, what kind of education? It is not just enough for us to say we are helping the young people, but are you really helping? Because helping means we are going to get Mr. Kirabo, who has had, is a tremendous math guy and what. We are going to bring the value out of him, the math, and see how that math can earn him and help the country. Now, if we can't guarantee that, we are putting money in the wrong place. Because we are going to see people running on streets. You see, hey, Kirabo, hey, Priscilla is there. Run. Now, that kind of thing is not what we want, because this is not what it should be serving. We need to realign this whole scheme to 3 things. Employment. For example, there should be some sort of guarantee. When you go to outside countries, you find that if you're given a loan scheme, sometimes it's incumbent even on government to get you employment.
For example, in the United States, if a person has a loan scheme and both of you are applying for a job, they take precedent because there is state money that has to be refunded to this person. Come to Uganda.
Thank you so much, Robert. That you can't be employed. If you have Priscilla and me asking for a job, but on my record I have that I have a government loan
scheme.
I may get a job because of that in government
to support
the
recovery process.
And you.
But you see, you're speaking that in the in the realm of existence, that there's even a database that should be able to cover that.
Of course,
because then that calls for a national database to be able to collaborate.
We hope it's there.
Actually, Priscilla, yesterday when I was at this press conference and I saw the executive director of this board saying now we are having confusion. Some people study on loan scheme and they don't even want to mention that they are studying on loan scheme. So when they get jobs, there's no way you can get this money. I think we must come up with a policy where the person employing this person knows that this person said on loan scheme. I was like,
it should be public knowledge.
So why should it be a problem that someone had this opportunity? Because there are many that are craving for it. But I think Felix brought out a very strong point when he said, what is the end result? How do we ensure that this journey we've begun, we can conclusively bring it to an end in a way that makes sense? These projects will come up. The only challenge has been in every government. Look at youth livelihood, look at this youth empowerment. Paying back is the problem that some of these projects at the end of the day end up either being closed because you thought of a revolving fund that maybe after this amount, a number of years, will be able to pay. I was looking at their target of collecting 800 million from beneficiaries. They've so far gotten 400 million. And they're thinking that maybe by close of the year, they'll be able to recover the remaining, which with the pandemic I think it's still
there's no way that can happen. Okay, let's go back to the employment challenge there. Of course, they're doing this to enhance higher education, as it has been duly noted over the years that yes, there's the education, universal primary education. Now there was universal secondary education. Now we've got to support higher education to also be able to release the numbers and change the stance of literacy in Uganda. However, of course, the challenges are there on the side of the government. But let's look at the beneficiaries. Yes, I've taken a student loan. I have finished my studies and I get a job. We all know, and I believe all of us are best examples here, that the first job, the second job you get is nowhere related to what you've studied. That happens for like 1% of Ugandans. Does that happen for this? If you went to school for sciences or if you went to school for pharmaceuticals, your first job is going to be pharmaceuticals.
You know what happens?
Meaning that the pay grade is also going to be different and lower, not to be able to support you to be able to live the livelihood, more so pay off a loan.
But maybe just even look at so far, when you look at this loan scheme for the last 7 years, they will tell you they have 3,000 health and medical practitioners that have benefited. They have over 2,000 science teachers. They have 1,000 that is
and by
agriculture
benefit you
experts.
mean they have applied and gotten the student
And
loans, not so as recovery.
Yeah,
yes.
they have, these who have benefited. Then they have 3,000 engineers. So when you look at the courses they are selecting, one would say they're a bit marketable. But also you must understand that the cost in institutions of studying, for example, a person doing civil engineering, that would mean it's a lot of money, not so, Felix? It's a lot of money that even when you get a job, maybe you're completing studying with a loan amounting to about, even can go to 20 million, Priscilla. So what time, which job are you going to get? Beginning salary in Uganda. Beginning salary. How many people that their first salary in Uganda was six-figure salary? So if you come out of university, you're an engineer, you're a science teacher, you're maybe a doctor, how are you going to get this job that's going to give you this level of pay, of recovery, so that you're able to get something for yourself, not to be a slave of this loan, and also be able to service a loan?
Felix, is there a way to find a solution to that?
Well, I think it's just looking in how this whole thing should be crafted. For example, first and foremost, the most defeating part is the selection of courses. We don't know what informs that.
Okay, but let's just look at the courses here. We do have human medicines programs. You do have pharmacy and pharmaceutical science programs. You do have nursing and midwifery programs. You do have agriculture and forestry programs. And then you do have computer and ICT. You also do have statistics and applied economics. They also give consideration to education programs. And those are the programs that have beneficiaries.
Assuming they believe you can a bit marketable and maybe get.
Is it
you say it is not
in
guaranteed.
Uganda?
It's not guaranteed, but there are some courses, you know, like when we were growing up, people knew that if you study maybe medicine and law, those were some.
Do you want me to take you where doctors are looking for jobs?
Yeah.
I have a family member who spent 2 years in this country until he traveled to the US, where he was invited to offer service. You know, what I'm saying is that the selection of courses probably is determined by the small fund. I'm trying to think out of with them, or probably is
determined by the expense, you know, because these are literally practical courses that require the student to inject in money continuously to be able to finish.
But Priscilla, also keep in mind that the biggest, most recent now, the biggest employer is no longer government. The private sector has grown so big. Now, that should be informed by the demand on market. That should be informed by at least two aspects. One, the demand on market, but also the national development plan. The vision. When you talk about the 2040s, the 21, those should inform where do we put our money in terms of academics. That if we are looking at being a country that is probably biochemistry that is in the next 40 years, we want to have what hospital, then we should focus on that area in terms of education.
Country and
thank you. I've not had read anything to do with agriculture.
Agriculture, so far they have about...
Kirabo, don't put it
agriculture, 1,000 agriculture experts have benefited from this.
Benefited?
Yes.
Okay, that's a good thing. But how has that, do we see the effect of that in society?
That's a good question.
No,
we are looking at the aspect of industrialization. How do we use this source to enhance that? All right? Okay. We are looking at the aspect of research. How do we? Now, because, and that's why I said earlier, the scheme should focus into covering a gap, answering a question in society in terms of professionalism. That we are scarce in terms of teachers. Are we scarce in terms of teachers in this country?
Science teachers in this country.
Be honest.
No, we are not scarce of teachers in this country.
Are we scarce in terms of
engineers?
Engineers. So we should answer the question that, and now as Priscilla put it, that now that the world has changed, how do we, in fact it should be changed to let's focus on the growing trends, the changing trends of the times. ICT, we have a lacuna. Do you want, all these, for me, I think for us to fit the purpose that you must look at places where you're answering a mischief because it's a government fund.
Okay. Speaking of the gap that you're referring to, the Higher Education Students Financing Board has been having a gap, especially where persons with disabilities are concerned. But good enough, they sat on the drawing board and realized that these two must also be given consideration. So starting this financial year, the 8th cohort, they are calling for applications for persons with disabilities to be able to also be beneficiaries from the students' loan schemes. But courses for persons with disabilities are limited to law. You do have arts with education, social sciences, psychology. Do you see where I'm going with this? Do you see the contradiction? You mean a person with disability cannot do sciences, they cannot do pharmaceutical? Let me finish it.
Okay.
Social works and social administration. You do
imagine?
have business studies, psychology, social works and social administration. Yeah. So imagine.
That is so discriminating.
That is discriminative alone, because we have seen persons with disabilities being doctors. We've had one of the greatest stories of the man whose hands were nothing, but he's the greatest surgeon that we speak of today. And so persons with disabilities can also apply for nursing and midwifery. It's a big insult.
And also, Priscilla, one of the things maybe I look at here is that other areas, people without disabilities, they're not privy to those courses. So these have been tailor-made to persons with disabilities. Yes, I welcome inclusion.
Who has tailor-made? Because when law was being designed, it was not designed with a person with disability. It was designed for
if
a
you look
person.
At other applicants,
yes.
If you look at other applicants, they're not having opportunity to apply for to venture into those courses. So if you look at the sciences, the arts, they go more to the side of disability. That's why I say that maybe they have opened up a gap or space for persons with disability in arts, which they have not done for other people. But when we talk about inclusion, I see discrimination in inclusion. Because I think the same, maybe you would say that for a person with a disability, if they apply, does it mean that if a person with a disability applied in other fields, so they are not taken?
That's pretty much it, because it has not been there in the first place. Yeah, so now they're having that lenience.
So then second, if I applied and I don't indicate that I have a disability, and you get to find out that I have a disability, do you in any way disconnect me of that? Or is it that now the space for persons with disability has been broadened, that they can apply, there is what is tailor-made for them, but even these other courses we've been talking about, they still have ability to apply and go through?
Felix Nkunda, what is your take on this discrimination?
I think this whole thing of people with disability, and I have grown up listening to this statement that disability is not inability, and this is the time where we should be discussing that particular statement. I know for a fact that people with disabilities have competed leveragely on this globe. I know colleagues who are lawyers who are disabled.
In the recently concluded Paralympics, we had disability team going and representing Uganda.
I know people who are doctors, I know accountants, I know lecturers, I know. So as all of even who are watching, as you know these people, it may be a good one to take it on the ground of affirmative action, but why do you limit them to what they can achieve? If the slot is there for people with disability, leave it open. Leave it
Let
open.
them compete
If there are no people with
favorably
disabilities
with the-
who are
yes.
interested in law, just if you want to give it to them as a special token for people, leave it open. Leave it open. Now, if you say you have to be disabled, now that's already bad. Then you say, but on top of that, you can only do this because of your
disabled.
Now, what kind of nankan is that?
Demeaning is that? That's demeaning.
So I think it's not fair, and I'll be honest. But lastly, about this whole scheme, Priscilla, I think it needs to be revised, and we get true meaning out of it in terms of what it must. This fund must address a mischief. It must come in place to remedy a problem, not necessarily to just be there because there are people who are vulnerable.
Okay. All right. I don't have closing remarks to this, because the fact that there is that divide which we have been constantly fighting for, even in the most recently newly elected members of parliament that are now serving their 6th term of governance, you get to see that there's been inclusion in terms of persons with disabilities. They're being more welcome to the table, and they're being given the same privileges that other normal people, quote unquote, have. So this is quite disappointing from the Higher Education Students Finance Board, but I hope that from this conversation you can be able to revisit and have them have equal opportunity. Equal opportunity is what we are calling for at the end of the day. Well, thank you so much. We now turn our attention to what is in black and white for the tabloids today morning. Later on, we'll look at traffic, and then after that, Bolan Kenana will return with us for an update regards weather, nature and climate. At 8 o'clock sharp, we will start off our agenda for today.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body, because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Thank you for being with us, and we continue to fulfill our promise to you, which is ensuring that you start your day a very informed person, knowledgeable of what is happening locally and internationally. But also, you can give us your feedback on the various segments that we have here by going on the various social media platforms and sending in a comment or your participation on whatever segment. It is most of our poll question daily. Well, it's time we look at what is happening in the print media. I have the New Vision, and Felix has the Daily Monitor and the Daily Nation. Beginning with the New Vision, a very big headline there: government commits 11 billion to community roads, and they give you districts that are going to be benefiting from this. So find out for proper accountability if your district is going to benefit from this, which community roads are going to be made, and how do we promote transparency and accountability there for national development. Still, the New Vision looks at over 6,000 students to benefit from the loan scheme, something we've been discussing in our newsreel. But also the First Lady vows to fight increasing rate of teenage pregnancy. That was yesterday during the celebrations to mark international, that is the Day of the Girl Child, yesterday at Kololo. A picture there posing with the girl child, young girls there. Still in the education column, today the New Vision brings you Senior 3 and Senior 5 work, where there is biology, there is chemistry, there is mathematics. And more breakthroughs coming in the fight against COVID-19 and treatment. Here we see COVID-19 pills to be released in the United States of America. Well, as also work on our medication here. But Felix, let's take a look at the Daily Monitor.
Daily Monitor, over 120 deals at Luca, UNHC, Total, Medimort Limited, and much more. Now also Rainbow Mufuma, the first African to win the Queen's Essay competition, but also the big headline, Cabinet Memo on Bail Reforms leaks. And some of the proposals in this, the paper proposes 3 case scenarios. Attorney General asks judiciary to expedite bail rules. A proposal says current system not working. DPP to get power to issue bail certificate. Now that is also we're looking at the Orthodox Church Pope in Uganda for 1-week visit, and they give you a headline here, a walk of faith. Now how impunity and justice for sale breeds land conflict. Janet rallies parents on protecting children, and application for government study loans starts. Now also UK pledges 556 trillion for climate change, and government withdraws treason case against Dr. Chiza Besigye. Now today in history, the Duke of Kent visits Gulu, that is in 1962, and fire rages in Minnesota, it is in 1918.
Back to the New Vision, we start off with the COVID-19 tracker, that is Uganda, where new confirmed cases stand at 90. We look at positivity rate, which is 1.9%. New death, that is 1 person succumbed to COVID-19. Total death for our country now stands at 3,177. Once again, please perfect the SOPs, go for vaccination to avoid death, severe illness and hospitalization. Any place that has been gazetted by the ministry, please go and get yourself the jab, the first and the second. Still looking at 59 years of independence. We are in the Independence Month, that is October. We look at the State House of then and what we have today. Well, they give you then and now, but also in history today. It was on this date, the 12th of October, but the year 1988, when Bishop Ashley of Lila died in Zambia Hospital. But still on the same date, the year 1901, President Roosevelt changes name of President's Palace. And still, we look at facts or myth regarding COVID-19. Are COVID-19 vaccines interchangeable? That is a question, and the expert answers. But remember, in GME Agenda, we shall have Dr. Alfred Duruware, who will be giving you more regarding vaccines, and all these questions will be answered.
Now in sports also, Shy Gold Cranes have work cut out, and of course World Cup qualifiers, table standing Qatar 2022 qualifiers reach, that is a Pelmat stage. We'll find all the tables inside. Now Ndeje defeat cases here to book African ticket, and Khalifa rallies under 20 women as South Africa looms large.
Looking at the New Vision Sports, France wins league. Which league details are in there. Then Arua has produced sports talent and is setting up facility there for Arua. And my next plan, that is the Uganda Cranes coach, admits a tough task ahead for the Cranes, but says he's ready to take on the task. But don't forget, when it comes to sports, these and more, Ruben will be here to give you all those catchy, the interesting stories in the sports arena.
Well, of course, much of that, as Robert said, you'll be getting when you get yourself copies of the papers. And of course, again, this is the time where we do guide your way into Kampala or outside Kampala. Maybe one time we'll have, how do you guide us out of Kampala?
Out of Kampala to where is
thinking the people who work overnight, and in the morning they are going back.
Okay.
Maybe one day
it usually reflects because it's a two-way traffic.
Oh yeah, by the way.
Yes, it's two-way traffic, so it definitely always does reflect. But if you do get time, please go by the lakeside and rethink some of the things that you had planned over the year and where you are today. Probably the serenity always by the lakeside, Lake Victoria in particular, will always cause you to reminisce and go back to the drawing board and possibly come out with solutions. It never disappoints. But we want to look at three particular roads adjacent to each other, more or less in the same locality. This is Machindia Division, picking it up from Munyonyo, where they all come and bring a contribution in terms of traffic. And that is Gaba Road, you do have Lukuli Road, and also you do have Salama Road. So we want to look at both routes and how they affect traffic in Machindia Division as of this morning. Now, following Salama Road, on Salama Road, we do have Chirudu Referral Hospital. Chirudu Referral Hospital does cater to COVID-19 patients. So if you are in Machindia Division, this would be a good alternative because it's a government-aided entity. It's under KCCA, and it will get to take care of your patients with very good care for all that matter. But looking at Salama Road, you get to see that there's actually orange zones, especially for the traffic that he's heading into the heart of the city, Kampala. The reason of this is because of the continuous growing potholes. They're no longer potholes, they are holes. Yeah, they are holes in their own nature. And we've had KCCA a few months back stating that they are putting away 9 billion shillings to cater to potholes. But I think that only worked in selected areas in high-end offices, but for the Wananchi area codes, we don't see that happening. So dear KCCA, please endeavor that all potholes within Kampala are covered. So Salama Road is continuously suffering from potholes, and that is why you're seeing those particular orange red zones in those areas of Chirudu, around Luwafu, and then you get into Machindia zone. Now we do have Salama Road bringing traffic and dropping it or connecting it to Mobutu Road, or you also do have a traffic that is being connected from Salama Road onto Entebbe Road. Now, on Entebbe Road, you get to see that that traffic from Salama can only head to Entebbe Road, but does not connect from there to Chibuye. There's no way you can turn to the other side. So to turn to the other side, you will have to take the Calendar Road, and then Calendar Road will connect you to Mobutu Road, which Mobutu Road will bring you out at the Machindia police post, and then you connect to Chibuye, and then you can get your next destination. The other route that we want to look at this morning is the Lukuli Road. You get to see that Lukuli is having some sort of traffic jam, but this particular road has been most recently worked on, and because of the renovations on that road, it has made traffic a little bit easier and more bearable on the Lukuli Road. So you get to see Lukuli Road, and then it drops you in Nanganda. The rest of it is actually a clear route. Now, alternatively, I've used both routes, and my recommendation would be is that use Lukuli Road, because now for it is fully tarmacked and functioning much better than Salama Road. The good thing is that there's always these connecting routes in between there. There's a connecting route around Kaboja International School that can connect you back to Salama Road. There are always connecting routes that can bring you back to your particular area code on Salama Road. But for time saving, use Lukuli Road and then find your way back to your particular area code or your LC area in Salama Road. The rest of Lukuli Road coming back to Machindia is indicative that it's actually a clear route. Now let's look at Gaba Road this morning from Mawanga to Gaba Road, the likes of Bunga and then Upper Buziga. Let's see how the traffic is flowing. And of course, if you're picking it up from Bunga on Gaba Road, it shows you that there's not much traffic to expect. Then the traffic starts to build up at Soya Trading Center. Of course, you do have Karungu bringing in traffic. People of Bunga are also trying to connect into the heart of the city. You also do have traffic that is coming in from Katuso area code. You also have Nanganda. So these are majorly residential areas that will use a Soya Trading Center to be able to connect to the rest of Gaba Road. The other expected area that has jam this morning is around Galaxy. Soweto Road from Lukuri Nanganda and connecting to Gaba Road. This is another way for people who stay in this other side of Machini to connect to Gaba Road. So it's a very good connecting route. If you can learn it, it will lead you to Gaba Road and cause you to enter into Kansanga around the market area, and then it will bring you to Gaba Road. So either you're going to the likes of Mukwano Road, or you can actually come through and connect to Mbogo Road and be able to connect to the areas of Chisugu or even Muyenga for that matter. Now, speaking of the hotspots on Gaba Road, the hotspots are most especially expected around Kabalagala area code, where you do have orange zones that are coming through there and a red zone for traffic that is coming in from Gaba Road trying to connect to Muyenga Road there, which means that there's traffic at a standstill, but there's an officer here to manage the traffic. Of course, the sharp bend here from Kansang and to Kabalagala is also having traffic jam, majorly marred by the fact that commuter taxis are influencing the flow of traffic, stopping to pick or drop off passengers, and so this is constantly going to cause some bit of traffic. We also do have traffic that is expected to be coming in from the lower sides of Nsambia and connecting to Kabalagala, still at the trading center, and so you would expect traffic jam here to be a little more delayed than possible. But at the police post, and then you get to go to Mbogo Road, would be a good connecting route for you to enter industrial area, or for those of you that are heading into Namuwongo, this away from Mbogo Road and junction, you are free to actually get into the rest of the heart of the city without major expected jam area codes. Namuwongo Road, where you do have Chisugu Health Center, that curve there is always expected to have some jam every single morning because these are residential areas. But for Namuwongo Road, you get to see that up until it has the junction that enters into 6th Street, that is where you do have traffic jam. For that, you do have trucks that are bringing in lots of traffic for the trade that is happening. As you can see, there's so many trading places here. There's so many industries, furnishing houses, and so on. So all these contribute to the way you see the orange and red zones in this area code. For now, we leave that traffic and we let you know, please wear your seatbelt. Make sure that you have a valid permit or ID, for that matter, a national driving permit. If you don't, please go and get yourself a renewal, and it's a very simple process nowadays, and it's also very affordable nowadays. So please make sure that you have a valid driving permit on the road. Curfew still stands at 7 p.m. so ensure that you are at home by 7 p.m. and then it opens up at 5:30 in the morning. For now and onto the day, I'm sure you're going to be having a safe day on the road, but please ensure that you also follow the road signage, which guides you in speed meters, as well as any other challenges, sharp corners, bends, humps that could be on the particular route that you're using this morning. Away from that, Mwalen Kenyana is returning with us to give us an update in weather, nature and climate.
Yes, thank you very much, Priscilla. Now, this morning, like we mentioned earlier, there is developing a report that is showing that La Palma, that is a volcano in Spain, has erupted again. And this time, it is taking in a factory within the nearby area. Now, this volcano started erupting, that was earlier in September. So this is like the 23rd consecutive day that this volcano has been active. Now, this time, it has created fires within the surrounding, but then this also entered part that is actually mostly full of factories. And this factory already had residents close to 2,500 people. Now, these have been put into lockdown, especially because of the fact that there has been smoke there. So this is meant to help monitor their health in terms of what they could have inhaled from this factory, because these are usually associated with fuel and most of the chemicals that are really dangerous to our health. Now, what is also maybe the good news coming in is that most people were already alerted about the likelihood of stuff like this. So at least those that were closer to the volcano had already evacuated the area, and so far we have no reports of death that is across that area. But also looking at what is happening with this volcano, it looks like every year there is a likelihood of it erupting. This has been an active volcano in Spain. And my worry is that authorities are not putting enough into consideration of what some of these natural events actually mean. Because looking at what we always talking about, it's like every year we're talking about La Palma actually erupting. Then why do we have cases like seeing industries being gotten into, catching fire, yet there is actually a way they could move some of these facilities away from the volcano, because it's not going away. It's a natural thing that is there. So I think there is need that people should be aware of this, and even when they're continuing to put some of these facilities, it could help with actually looking at a strategic plan. But also away from that, this morning we are looking at mostly some of the species that are at stake. We are talking about other animal species that we could be looking at in terms of biodiversity loss. Now, there is a report that is coming in, and that is from COP15. Yes, COP15. There is a 15th conversion of parties. That is conference of parties that sat yesterday in China, and this is looking at animal and also mostly insect loss those that are being affected by nature. That means we're talking about biodiversity loss. So they're looking at some of the species that are at stake, and I think we covered this story some time back. But yes, we are talking about most of the animals. For example, the frogs, and home to frogs actually is the Amazon. Now, they prefer the Amazon basically because of the warm and conducive nature that is within the forest. It gives them that cover. There is it's not cold, it's not warm. Because of the forest, it protects it from that direct sun. So that is why at least 70% of the world's frog species are in the Amazon. But we are looking at a time where the Amazon is also being attacked naturally. We've had a lot of wildfires breaking out in the Amazon. Even for this decade alone, it has been on record that the Amazon has gotten more fires. Now, that is threatening life of species like frogs, but also that it's not only the frogs. We look at species like insects, and we all know about the insects, but also we are looking at some of the species in Madagascar that have also faced extinction. But mostly, when we look at bees, if we talk about bees, what exactly is at stake? Now, we know that bees help with the pollination of our crops. Well, not to mention the honey. But guess what? So the more we practice production, cropping, farming, it means the bees have to be involved. But if they are at risk of being extinct, then we're looking at this pollination chain being actually broken, because it is something, insects are the smallest thing to notice their contribution to nature. But I can tell you, without them, there is a lot that could go wrong, especially with crop production. This is why we need these species, but they are at extinction, which is why most of the countries that are party to this conference, that is COP15, are converging to see a way of how to protect these natural species. Well, I can tell you this is what we're waiting for today, especially with the outcomes of the conference that went down yesterday, that was in China. But also most of the species actually being attacked away from the insects. We also look at the animals that really depend on being in forests or also in national parks that are being attacked because of the changes in climate. So while as humans we're trying to deal with what is likely to happen if we do not take action against climate change, these particular species of animals and insects, they have nothing to do. They can only adapt. But if there's nothing they can adapt to, you cannot adapt to extinction. And this is a phrase that is going around even with climate scientists. How are we supposed to adapt to extinction? These species are dying off. There is no way they are going to adapt if it cannot live even to see another day. So I think there is an urgent need to really protect nature and especially make sure that we have a no more biodiversity loss. So yes, this also is a road that's leading to a COP26 where countries are supposed to come together and devise more strategic plans. And this week I was reading a report where the UN has given countries up to the 22nd of this month to come out with new plans. There are a lot of countries, especially developing countries, that still lag behind with presenting such strategic plans. And talking about the national determined contributions, those are like the NDCs, what each country is supposed to present at a COP26 that will be in Glasgow, Scotland, UK. But the time is just small. I'm thinking if your only job is just to present these strategic plans, do it. Let's find a way to save the planet. Well, as we save the planet, we also want to take a look at the weather and how it is going around the country for today. Well, we're looking at mostly, we did start off with actually a cloudy morning across most areas within the country. I have a friend last night who was asking me how the weather was going to look like in the night. I'm like, are you traveling in the night, or do you want to know it just in case you need beddings? But yes, we did start off with most rain starting from last night. But this morning, let's go ahead and take a look at the forecast. Well, starting off with the eastern part of Lake Victoria, we have Tororo, Busia and Iganga. Jinja, we are forecasting isolated showers. Those are already covering most places, but also starting off at 26 degrees centigrade. Now we look at eastern Uganda. We have Soroti, Katakwi, Moria and Kumi. We're forecasting intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions, mostly a mix of sunny morning for that area, but we'll be looking at rains later as the day progresses, starting off at 26 degrees centigrade. Now we look at the eastern part of Central, where we have Ruwero, Woblenzi, we have Bululi, Nakaseke. That area is forecasted to have rainy conditions. We already have clouds that are developing over that area, and that will be starting off at a cool 25 degrees centigrade. Also, that system is expected to continue into the afternoon. Now, central part of northern Uganda, we have Gulu, Adjumani, Kitgum and Padel. We're looking at mostly isolated showers. Those will also be starting off at a cool 25 degrees centigrade. The system is already developing over there, and that is also likely to continue into the afternoon, so you can look out for that. Now, the central part of Lake Victoria, that is Kampala, Mukono, Entebbe, Wakiso, we have Buyukwe actually in that category. That area is forecasted to have rains this morning. We already have clouds that are starting to develop, and that rainy system heading your way. You might need to take note of that, and starting off at a cool 24 degrees centigrade. For southwestern Uganda, we have Mbarara, Ibanda, Bushenyi and Rubirizi. We're starting off with a mix of clouds and sunshine. Also at a very chilly morning, starting off at 25 degrees centigrade. We do expect that area to actually also develop rains, but that will be later in the evening. The western part of Lake Victoria, already we have those rains that are starting to move through. We're forecasting isolated showers. Those will be over a few areas, but looking at a cold morning as well. That will be at 24 degrees centigrade. Now we look at Mount Elgon Highlands. We have Mbale, Bududa, Buko and Sironko. That area is forecasted to have light rains, and that will be starting off at a cold 24 degrees centigrade. A whole batch of the weather systems that we actually had. This is the system over the lake that did start off from last night. Now that has been bringing us rains, especially across the islands of Lake Victoria, but it is already starting to progress, moving westwards, and that is the system that could be bringing us rains today morning. That is across the western parts of Lake Victoria as well as the central Lake Victoria. But we also did see one developing earlier this morning across midwestern Uganda that is already bringing rains across areas of Hoima, and that is also moving in from Lake Albert. That will also be bringing more rains across parts of Fort Portal, Mubende, and also for the entire morning that could actually be affecting parts of Hoima still. We also have one across the northwestern part of the country, that is West Nile. We did have rain starting off across Yumbe, but even this morning we're already seeing rains across parts of Arua, and that area can expect to have this going on for the entire morning. We do have one that is also stretching from the Karamoja side, that is Moroto, also going up to Amuria, already having those rains, and we do have that in the forecast as well. But we're seeing most areas across the country are actually having mostly cloudy conditions. Now there is one that is starting to develop across Jinja, but that is one to look out for because it seems like it's starting to clear up, but then there are more rains that are likely to develop over this area, so there will be more clouds forming around this region. But for now, most areas are actually across central northern Uganda dealing with sunny intervals, but we do have this rain system that is stretching from Juba, and this is the one that might actually get to the northern part of the country, already seeing a part of it towards the northwestern, and that is what is bringing rains even right now across parts of Arua. So that is one to look out for, which is likely to bring us rains, especially across the central part of northern Uganda. Well, but it is a clear morning, though more rains are expected to develop later in the afternoon across several places. But we do have Good Morning Uganda agenda coming up. Robert will be here, and also later we do have sports. But also don't forget to catch us live on YouTube. We're streaming at UBC Television Uganda. You can get us there. Well, for now, I'll leave you at that. My name is Modern Kenyina. Have a good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC, brought to you by was brought to you by.
We've cut and reduced our MTN Momo withdrawal rates. Now you can withdraw mobile money at the lowest rates. You also get MTN Central Points when you deposit, send and withdraw MTN mobile money. Visit our Momo agents countrywide and withdraw mobile money at our reduced rates from 1st May 2021. Everywhere you go, MTN.